Report of a fire in the building in the deli of the MGM.
The more I worked my way up, there would be more casualties. But as we were coming down Paradise Road, I looked over and we could see the smoke. I was basically thinking, well, we got a real worker here, you know. In the road of Flamingo, the sewer caps had been blown out of the street. And you could see the smoke just coming straight out like a smokestack. We got to one point, I think it was around the 21st floor, that it was so dark you couldn't see anything. And I remember tripping over something, and then I found out later what it was, you know. And then I ended up crawling, and I was literally crawling over casualties. But we were still getting people out.
We got outside and I looked back at the hotel, and smoke is coming out of the hotel. People are screaming out of the windows of their hotel rooms. And you're thinking, my God, just 5 minutes earlier, I was in the casino, walking to the shop, got a cup of coffee, everything was fine. What could have happened in such a short period of time? And then we had 10 days to go in there and find anything we could. And part of what we wanted to do was get the money. In some cases, when you went there, the hopper was there and the coins were in the hopper, but the machine was almost 90% gone.
Of course, it changes you, you know, but you don't think it does at the time. Because, you know, firemen are supposed to be tough.
The Bally'S MGM Grand Fire of 1980. In the heart of the bustling Las Vegas Strip, dire tragedy struck. The MGM Grand Fire of November 21, 1980 was the second largest loss of life hotel fire in the history of the United States and the deadliest event in Nevada's state history. Because of the raging fire and severe smoke from the blaze, 87 people died and over 700 were injured in the 26-story building. At the time of the fire, approximately 5,000 guests and staff occupied the hotel, leaving many to live to tell the story of this accidental yet avoidable disaster. Before the fire, the MGM Grand Hotel was one of the earliest luxury mega hotels on the Strip, with a price tag of $106 million. At its opening in 1973, it was the largest hotel in the world, though we may think of the modern-day MGM Grand Hotel and Casino when we hear MGM Grand. The MGM Grand Hotel fire actually took place on the site of what is now the Bally'S Hotel and Casino. The start of the fire. This clematis fire started in the deli, an upscale restaurant on the casino floor, due to a number of electrical issues that took place that morning. The deli was not sprinklered and there were no heat or smoke detectors installed. After a failed attempt by one employee to contain the fire, witnesses contacted emergency services. As soon as Captain Rex Smith and his fire crew from the Clark County Fire Department arrived, they noticed the eerie sight of heavy black smoke lying motionlessly in the atmosphere above the casino pit. A rapid spread. The crew looked towards the deli. A fireball exploded from the restaurant area, hurtling into the casino. Immediately, the crew began to evacuate the hotel as the heavily deadly smoke descended upon them. During the fire, no alarms rang as there were no automatic fire alarm systems in place. The only alarm system the MGM did have was purely for security purposes. Making matters worse, the building was only sprinkled in certain areas as sprinklers weren't installed throughout the hotel. The fire was able to spread so quickly due in no small part to the decor of the posh deli restaurant, which was closed that morning. Decorations lined the interior along with layers of ornamentations covering the ceilings and walls. For all their visual appeal, these details were highly combustible, allowing the flames to travel seamlessly throughout the casino. Flammable materials on the walls, ceilings, and in the furnishings fed the fire's engulfing reach. The fire spread through the casino at a rate of 15 to 19 feet per second. The temperature from the burning plastic materials were 3 times higher than the heat from the May 1980 volcano eruption of Mount St. Helens. Traveling smoke. Firefighters managed to isolate the fire to the first few levels of the casino, but couldn't address the subtler but more pressing danger, the smoke. Toxic black smoke and carbon monoxide traveled up the hotel floors, throughout elevator shafts, air conditioning docks, and stairwells. The air conditioning units on the roof, like much of the hotel, were not properly equipped with smoke detectors. Instead, the units allowed for the smoke and gas to spread throughout the building easily. The flawed design of the hotel. Given that this happened in the morning, many guests were still in their rooms asleep or relaxing. Many of the guests were not notified of any way of the fire below. The lack of a proper alarm system, as mentioned above, proved to be a contributor to the high loss of life. By the time the guests realized what was happening, it was too late for all of them to escape. Guests on the upper floors of the 26-story hotel tried to evacuate through the stairwells, but those areas were already filled with smoke. Opening the doors to the stairwells simply helped the smoke fill more and more the floors. The stairwell doors to each floor locked behind them as a safety feature, making escape even more unattainable. Worst of all, there were only 2 exits that were unlocked and could be reached through the stairwell, but these exits were on the first floor, which was in flames, and the 26th, the very top. No one in the stairwells survived. Tragic deaths. Of the 87 deceased, 75 of those deaths were caused by smoke inhalation and carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide levels at the scene were extremely high, ranging from 25% to 66%. 4 victims died from only smoke inhalation, 3 from a combination of burns and smoke inhalation, and the remaining victims succumbed to burns, massive skull fractures, or heart inflammation. One woman trying to escape the incoherent smoke leaped from the 17th floor to her death. Most victims died on the casino level and upper floors, 29 victims being found in their rooms, 21 in elevator lobbies or hallways, 5 in elevators, and 9 in stairwells. Victims on the casino level were found among the remains of casino tables. Black soot was found on the nose and mouths of the inhalation victims in the hotel tower. Survivors and surroundings. Guests in the tower that did survive were those able to make it to the roof, where they were evacuated by helicopter, or those rescued by firefighters. The building's evacuation took close to 4 hours to complete. In the meantime, survivors desperately broke open windows to clear smoke out from their rooms and took other measures, such as attempting to seal their rooms with towels and mattresses to prevent the deadly smoke from seeping inside. Right after the fire's initial spread, rumors spread as rapidly as the fire did, while investigators tried to question distressed witnesses. Firefighters still worked to extinguish the blaze and save survivors, underscoring the chaos of the scene. Smoke and threat of the building collapsing quickly literally loomed overhead. Thousands of curious passerby on the strip watched the fire from a distance. Traffic on the streets slowed to a halt as everyone tried to see what could happen to cause an almost mile-high tower of smoke to erupt, rise into the empty desert morning sky. On the ground below, smoke, fire, broken glass, and cars crushed by the impact of the main doors of the casino blowing up. The fire's aftermath. The fire decayed much of the restaurant and surrounding areas, including the Orleans Coffee House, a coffee shop. What was once a wall by the coffee shop was reduced to nothing more than metal studs. In the same area, there were unusual fire and charred patterns. Uncannily enough, the day of the fire, the 24-hour coffee shop was open for business. About 50 people sat at tables and at the coffee counters at the time. In addition to the 87 victims and over 700 wounded, 14 firefighters were admitted to local hospitals. That's not to mention the estimated 300 firefighters that didn't seek medical attention but suffered the headaches, nausea, and dizziness characteristics of carbon monoxide poisoning. At least 10 firefighters also acquired physiological trauma from fighting the catastrophic fire, a preventable catastrophe. In the aftermath, expert assignments of the tragedy concluded that the fire could have been avoided. The dangerous mixture of ignorant safety protocols, missing alarms, sprinkles, exits, fire extinguishers, and poorly functional HVAC units, combined with the flammable synthetic materials used to luxuriously decorate the casino, made what might have been a small accidental fire into a gigantic eventful fire. An adequate number of sprinklers alone would have, per David Demers, a Massachusetts fire analysis specialist who co-authorized the National Fire Protection Association report on the fire, rendered the unforgettable fire a 1 or 2 sprinkler fire that we never would have heard about. Dozens of lawsuits for hundreds of millions of dollars in damage were filed against MGM and settled in a $223 million fund that was given to victims and their families after the fire. 83 building code violations were cited by investigators, but no one was ever charged with any criminal wrongdoing. Not even the then chairman of MGM, Fred Benninger, was charged. Benninger is said to have been directly responsible for not having sprinklers installed throughout the hotel despite urgent warnings from engineering and risk management companies to do so. The grief from the fire almost killed him, said attorney and associate of the chairman. The fire revolutionized fire safety protocols and codes in Las Vegas, in Nevada, and throughout hotels everywhere, with sprinklers and automated fire alarm systems being installed at a fair gear number than in the 1970s. The fire's legacy. Following the tragedy, 8 months after the fire, the MGM Grand Hotel was rebuilt and reopened, and in 1985 was sold to Harrah's and rebranded Bally'S. The tower where this tragedy struck is still used to this day at Bally'S. For all the efforts made at putting this tragic past behind the hotel, at Bally'S in that same tower, weeping and coughing, confirming from no clear sources, have been reported by guests. Some visitors have even noticed ghostly apparitions on the same casino floor as the site of the fire. The ghosts appear to still be gambling as they were in their last mortal moments. Perhaps some of the paranormal presence left behind seek vengeance for their preventable death, or perhaps because of how sudden and unsuspecting so many of their deaths were, they might not fully realize that they have passed and are still seeking closure.
And then we had 10 days to go in there and find anything we could. And part of what we wanted to do was get the money. In some cases, when you went there, the hopper was there and the coins were in the hopper, but the machine was almost 90% gone.
Of course, it changes you, but you don't think it does at the time. Because, firemen are supposed to be tough.